The rain had already soaked through my jacket by the time she said the words that changed everything. The motel sign above us flickered weakly, buzzing like it was struggling to stay alive, casting red light across the empty parking lot. Her voice trembled slightly as she looked at the dark sky and then back at me. She quietly asked if we could stay there for the night, and my heart immediately started racing because the truth was painfully simple. I only had one bed in that tiny motel room. Before we continue, take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who believes in kindness and second chances, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us how one small act of compassion can change someone's entire life. My name is Marcus Whitaker, and that night in Northern Oregon was supposed to be nothing more than a quick stop during a long drive across the country. I had been on the road for 3 days, heading from Chicago to Seattle after accepting a construction management job that promised a fresh start. The past year had been heavy. My father had passed away suddenly, and the small business we ran together had collapsed soon after. Everything familiar in my life had slowly fallen apart, leaving me with little more than my pickup truck, 2 suitcases, and the stubborn belief that somewhere out west I might be able to rebuild. The motel I found sat just outside a quiet town called Brookridge. It was the kind of place people stopped at only when they had no better option. The neon lights flickered, the paint was peeling, and the front desk clerk barely looked up when handing me the key. Still, after hours of driving through endless rain, it felt like a small island of rest. I had just stepped back outside after checking in when I noticed her sitting on the curb near the parking lot. At first, I assumed she was waiting for someone. But something about the way she sat there, arms wrapped tightly around herself, staring down at the wet pavement, made it clear she had nowhere else to go. Her name, I later learned, was Hannah Brooks. At that moment, though, she was just a stranger in the rain. For a few minutes I tried to ignore it. I told myself it wasn't my business. People had their own problems, their own stories. But every time I reached for the door handle of my room, I glanced back at her again. She hadn't moved. Finally, I walked over. Up close, I could see she was younger than I first thought, maybe 23 or 24. Her brown hair was soaked, strands sticking to her face, and her hands trembled from the cold. She looked exhausted in a way that went deeper than just a long day. We started talking slowly, the way strangers do when they're both unsure if they should trust each other. She told me she had been traveling with someone who had left her behind earlier that night after an argument. Her phone battery was dead. Her wallet had disappeared, and the buses wouldn't start running until morning. The nearest town was miles away, and the storm had only gotten worse. I could hear the embarrassment in her voice as she explained it. She wasn't asking for money or sympathy. She just didn't know where else to go. That's when she looked at the motel sign, then back at me, and quietly asked if we could stay there for the night. The words hit me like a sudden wave. I told her the truth right away. I only had one bed. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The rain filled the silence between us. Finally, she nodded slowly, as if she had expected that answer all along. She started to stand up, ready to walk back out into the storm, probably planning to spend the night in a bus station or under some shelter. And that was the moment something inside me shifted. Maybe it was the memory of my father, who had always helped strangers without hesitation. Maybe it was the way she looked so determined not to ask for more than she already had. Or maybe it was simply the realization that sometimes people cross paths for a reason. I told her she could take the bed. I would take the floor. At first she refused. Pride is a powerful thing, especially when life has already taken so much from you. But eventually she agreed, mostly because the cold rain was beginning to turn into a freezing wind. The room itself was small and plain. A single bed, a cracked nightstand, and a window that rattled slightly every time the wind pushed against it. I grabbed an extra blanket from the closet and laid it across the carpet for myself, while she sat quietly on the edge of the bed, still unsure if she should feel grateful or guilty. We talked for a long time that night. Hannah told me about growing up in Arizona with her grandmother after losing her parents in a car accident when she was 12. She had worked 2 jobs to put herself through community college, studying graphic design and dreaming about one day opening a small art studio. But life rarely moves in straight lines. The relationship she thought would support those dreams had slowly turned controlling and cruel, until the night she finally decided to leave. That night. The night she ended up in the rain outside a forgotten motel. Listening to her story, I realized something surprising. Despite everything she had been through, there was still a quiet strength in her voice. She hadn't given up on the future, she just needed a chance to start again. Eventually exhaustion won. She fell asleep wrapped in the motel blanket while the storm outside slowly faded into a distant drizzle. I didn't sleep much, not because of discomfort, but because my mind kept replaying the strange path that had led us both there. Two strangers, both trying to escape the wreckage of their pasts, suddenly sharing the same small room on a stormy night. By morning the sky had cleared, sunlight poured through the window, and for the first time the world felt calm again. Hannah woke up looking almost like a different person. The warmth of the room and a full night's sleep had returned some color to her face. We grabbed coffee from a gas station across the street and sat on the hood of my truck watching the quiet highway wake up. She planned to take the first bus south to Portland, where an old college friend had once offered her a place to stay if she ever needed it. Before leaving, she looked at me with a smile that carried both gratitude and sadness, the kind of smile people give when they know they may never see someone again but will always remember them. And honestly, I expected that to be the end of it. But life has a way of surprising us. 3 months later, after I had settled into my new job in Seattle, a letter arrived at my apartment. The handwriting on the envelope was careful and slightly uneven. Inside was a photograph of a small art studio with bright windows and colorful paintings hanging inside. On the back of the photo was a short message. Hannah had found her friend in Portland. She had started working at a local design shop, saving money, and rebuilding her life piece by piece. The studio in the photo wasn't hers yet, but she said she passed it every day on the way to work, and imagined what it might look like someday with her name on the door. At the bottom of the letter she wrote something I will never forget. She said that night in the motel had reminded her that the world still had good people in it, that sometimes all it takes is one stranger choosing kindness instead of indifference to keep someone from giving up. Reading those words changed something in me too, because the truth is, I had thought I was helping her. But in many ways she had helped me just as much that night, reminded me that even when life feels broken, even when the road ahead looks uncertain, there are still moments of connection that can quietly restore our faith in humanity. If this story has touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who might need a reminder about kindness, and subscribe for more stories that celebrate the good in people. And before we finish, I have a special request for you. Comment the word hope below if you believe that one small act of kindness can truly change someone's life. Because sometimes the most powerful moments in life happen